Hi, and welcome back to Discovering Dataflix. Last week we installed the studio and you had a chance to look around. I hope you've done that, but if you haven't, don't despair. Today we're going to go all in looking at what the studio is all about. Before we do that, I want to say that in the Learning Center at Data Access, they have their own video of the studio. They go through some other things that also might interest you, so go have a look at that. But I'm going to share the things that I feel is most important in the studio, and that is the place where we do all the work. So let's dive in. Here we have the studio, and the first thing you come and see is the Start Center. And here you have the latest news from Data Access. You have your workspaces. And out here you have some quick guides and links to the Learning Center and start pages where you can get more information and some online resources. And this is a really good place to look around if you need some additional help getting started. We're not going to start by making a new workspace just yet. We're going to have a look at one of the existing ones. So if I, for instance, open the web order example, we get in here to the web app source page, which is the Start Center for the workspace. And here you can get some hints. It says we are missing a managed server database connection. We might want to add more tables, data dictionaries. It tells us a little bit of the status of the workspace. And that's really nice to have. Before we go any further, there's one thing that is new in version 20, and that is the dark mode. So I'm going to show you how to access the dark mode. And that's here in the Tools menu, Configure Studio, and then you switch to the dark theme, press OK, and voila, you have the dark theme. And that is a really nice upgrade to the studio in this version. Now let's continue. Out here on the left you have the tables. You actually have 3 different tabs down here. One for the tables, one for the code, and one for the classes. And in the tables, let's take the order header. You can double click on that one and go in and see how the table is looking. And you can always rearrange these. You can take this and put it anywhere if you want to have it somewhere else. So you can reorganize these. But by default, you actually have this tab in here. So, and in here in the table, you have the different columns you can go in and see, but I usually go in here in the table view and look at the indexes down here and the relationships down here. And this is the table overview. And then you have the data dictionary where you can configure a lot of specific things. And we're going to dive a lot deeper into the data dictionaries in another video. But for now, it's good to know that it's in here that you can configure things for all the different columns in your table. You can set them to caps lock, you can make them required fields and stuff like that. So that's all done in here. Another thing, when you're in here, if you want to watch the code for the data dictionaries, you just press F7 and then you see the code version of the data dictionary. So F7 is a really good key to remember here. In here you have the code view, so you can get an overview of the code. If we, for instance, open a view, let's open the order entry, the order view. you can see that you have the order object here, and you can drill down and see the different parts of the code. So now if I want to change the customer name, I can just double click here and I get to the customer name. And as you see also here in the preview, you can see the customer name. You can move it around and change the size and stuff like that. And I'm not going to do too much to that. You can also here double click and the code will show you where this object is. So we're going to play around with that a little bit as well later. And here you have the classes. So if I want to add a button, it's up here. I see web button, and I can add a web button, and you see the button appeared here in the middle. It's a very wide button at the moment, but we can make it smaller. We can move it around. Double click and can change the name of the button, and it updates in the interface as well. So here you have a click function, and that appears as default because you usually have a click function in the button. So the studio helps you in that way as well. But if you want to know more about the C web button or any other object, you can press F1 while the cursor is on that word, and you will get the help. And here you can read about the button. And up here you have properties that you can set on the button. So you can set different things. You have events that are fired on click, for instance. You have the on blur, on focus. Not too many events on a button, but other components have other events that could be useful. You have some methods on the button. You can find them here. And you have the class index here, so you can just go through and see all the different ones. But you can also search here. You have the index. You might have some favorite pages in here. Actually, I haven't figured out how to add. I have to do that. I learned something new today. Good. Back to the studio. If I want to go in here and add like an on focus procedure, I can just write procedure on, and if I want to autocomplete, I can press Ctrl Space, and you get the help here where you can go down and see exactly the procedures you can pick from, and then you can write your code here, what you want to happen when you focus on this one. If you want to move the code around, so let's say you have this on focus, and it basically sends none, and we want to move this up because we want to have it before the click function. I can press Alt and arrow up, and I just move the entire block of code that I've selected up and down. And if I don't want to use it, I can just press Ctrl K, and it will be remarked, and I can press Ctrl K again to insert it back into the code. So that's really handy to toggle. If I want to get an overview of the code quickly, you can press Ctrl and scroll, and you get the code smaller, and then you can scroll again and you can get into the code. If you're having a bad eyesight or something, you can get really close. But this is neat if you have a lot of code and want to zoom out and zoom in and start to work on it. One other thing that is good that I use is sometimes I go in here and I change something here, and then I go into the table and perhaps I update with a new column in the table, and I want to save because I have a lot of files open. I press Ctrl Shift S, and then I save everything. So that's a neat tool to have. So now let's try this. And we can run the application by pressing F5 or this green button with a white arrow in here. It's like a play button. And down here you're going to see if there's any errors in the code. And now there's no errors. And the browser will pop up. It hints that we should log in with John. So let's do that. And now we're in. And this is basically a typical Dataflex application. You get into a view where you can kind of create a new order, but you can also, if that order already exists, it will find it for you and pull it up, and you can look up and you can actually find another order and then go in and work with that order. So that is the default setup. You have these buttons where you can type 102 and then press the equal, and then it will find that order. You can go to the next one and next one and so on. And you have some reports, you have some different views here. And that's the order entry example. But before I close up this video, I just want to show you a little bit of the debugging feature as well. So I'm going to go in here and set a marker here, and this won't work because if I focus here now, I go out and I go and focus, you see nothing happens. That is because we haven't asked Dataflex to actually trigger that one. And you do that by setting PB server on focus. Here we have it. True. So now this one will be triggered, and we want to add a send none on the click as well, and add a debugging there. So now we should be able to trigger both of these. And now we're back in the order entry example, and I can see if I can tab. Yeah, now I tabbed on it. I haven't clicked on it yet, so I'm focusing on it, and I can actually click here to step over and proceed to the next line. If I want to continue, I just press F5 or continue here, and now when I click it, you see I focused it first, but when I continue here now, it's going into the click procedure as well, and then we're done. And now, since it is focused, I'm going back. So you can actually play around with just send none and see what's happening when you are developing code, which is really neat at some points when you want to see what the heck is going on. That's all I had for you today, and I hope you got some good feeling about what the studio is all about and where you can find things. And until next time, if you like to put your code in Git as well, you could create an account at GitHub or Bitbucket if you don't already have that. I'll provide links in the description below, because next week is going to be all about putting this baby up in the Git repository. And the week after that, we're actually going to start making some applications. So look forward to that. Hit that bell button and subscribe to this video so that you get updates. See you next time. Bye.